Hi, this is Miss Kell. So what I'd like to do today is talk about how we will be grading assignments in the creative writing class. Since it is a little different from other classes, we do use standards-based grading in here, but it's a little different from other classes, and we'll get into that. So one of the things that we focus on in this class is what I call the Power Six, which are the 6 traits that make for good readers, and then specifically we talk about writing and the 6 things that make good writing. So good writing isn't just you've got good penmanship or you have good spelling. Those are important. But what really, there's 6 different categories and all of them come together to make for really good writing. So we're going to look at those, and those are actually the standards for the class. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is ideas. Can you write a story with strong ideas? The next is organization. Is it logically organized? Does it make sense as it flows? Conventions. Can you use the correct conventions? Now that is where we get to the spelling and the punctuation and the grammar. Those things, as I said, are important, but it's only one of the 6 things that are important. The next one is powerful voice. So can we really hear the author coming through? Can we hear their own style? Can you write with good word choice? Picking out exactly the best words to use, which may or may not always be the longest, but just the perfect word for that situation. And then finally, can you write with beautiful fluency? And fluency is how the music or how the writing sounds. Like, does it sound like music? Does it flow smoothly? So those 6 things are what we're going to be looking at in their writing. And we're going to be looking at this for every single writing assignment turned in this class. The way it's going to be graded is based on the standards-based grading. So the top score is a 4, the bottom score is a 0, and I'm going to kind of explain to you how I see the different scores using analogy from Star Wars. So if you're familiar with Star Wars, here is, let's pretend the standard is I can use the Force. So at the bottom of the standard is Jabba the Hutt. He's never tried to use the Force. He doesn't know anything about it. There's no evidence that he can use the Force, right? Or possibly you could get limited evidence if, like, he said, oh, I will try the Force, but doesn't actually try it. He just is pretending. You don't have real evidence. That would give you a 0.5 or a 0. So generally that equates to, in our class, if a student doesn't turn anything in, they get a 0. If they turn in, let's say, a piece of paper and all they have is their name on it, there's no evidence to grade their writing, so they get a 0.5. Okay. Hopefully, you don't want to be a Jabba the Hutt, right? So let's move on then to beginning. Now, this is Luke Skywalker at the beginning of the Star Wars series, and I'm talking about shows 4, 5, and 6. But Luke Skywalker at the beginning of the series, he's a farm boy. He's never even heard of the Force, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi introduces him to it. Use the Force, and he tells him what it is. So he's beginning to see, oh, okay, there's this Force thing. What is this about? How do I use it? Just kind of the beginning phase where you're just starting to understand the concept. Same with anything else. If you get a 1 in here, it's like you're beginning to understand, but obviously you need a lot more work. So then we get to approaching, and this is I think of as like Luke when he goes to Dagobah to learn about the Force with Yoda. He's starting to kind of practice it. He can do it sometimes. He can like lift rocks up with his mind, but when he tries to lift up the plane, he can't do it because it seems too much for him. So it's like he's got the skills kind of, but not all the time. So that is where the approaching is. He's starting to get it, but it's not consistent. So then we get to proficient. Now this is Luke at the end when he is a Jedi, right? And being a Jedi is amazing. He understands the Force. He knows how to use it. It's there for him whenever he needs it. That is your goal, is to be proficient in whatever standards we're learning. Now, the final stage is Yoda. Yoda not only knows the Force, knows it well, but he can teach others. And that's the big difference with the excelling, is it's not just you know the content, but you know it so well that you could stand up there and teach the class. Okay, so that if you get to the Yoda stage, the 4, that means you know this, you can teach it. So that's just kind of an example to break down what those categories are for. Again, 3 is perfect. That is your goal, is to be proficient. You want to be a Jedi in whatever you're learning, right? Obviously, if you can get to the 4 stage, even better. But there's nothing wrong with being proficient. That is the goal. Okay, so how am I going to grade this? I have a rubric that is designed based on those 6 traits that we've been talking about. Every paper, every writing assignment that you turn in for a grade will be graded based on the same rubric. So each of the 6 categories you're going to get a grade for. For example, you turn in the paper and it says, oh, it's got clear, focused, interesting ideas with appropriate detail. You're going to get a 3 for ideas. Good job. You're proficient in that. You've got it. Organization, let's say maybe you only got a 2 for that. Attempts at organization, but might be just a list of events. Beginning and ending could be stronger, so it's kind of not real clear, right? Maybe it jumps around and it's confusing what the point is or where it's going. So you might get a 2 for that. Conventions, though, you proofread it so well, there are no mistakes. Maybe I'll give you a 4 for that. Your voice was pretty good. I'll give you a 3. Word choice could have been better, maybe just a 2. And then fluency, maybe a 3. So what it'll do, it will find an average of each of those scores, and that's the score that you'll get for that paper. But we're going to talk about that. But anyway, so that is how it'll be graded based on this rubric. Now, at the same time that I'm grading the paper, I'm going to have you grade your own paper as well. So you're going to fill out a self-assessment rubric. Every time you turn in a final paper, you're going to fill out this rubric. It is a chance for you to reflect about your own writing, because the more you reflect about what you did, the more you can learn. So all you got to do, you put in your name, the name of the assignment. I do have a question here. Did you complete the assignment correctly? So that's just a moment to go back and go, okay, wait, what was I supposed to do? Did I do that? Yes. Okay. And then you're going to grade your paper just the same way I do. In fact, this is the exact same wording. Will you give yourself a 3 or a 4 for ideas maybe? What are you going to give for each of these categories, just like I did? And then find any final thoughts, anything you really liked, didn't like, what you might do different. Again, the point of this is really getting you thinking about your own writing. I will not change my score based on what you put here, but it'll help you to see what you can do next time to get even better. It's all about growth, okay? So that is the way you will be graded. Now, let's talk about how this is going to look in the grade book, because that's where it gets a little confusing. So we've got this person here. I hid the name so you don't see it. There are 3 different categories in the grade book. The first one is the writing category. Then we have citizenship. And citizenship is, I think it's set at 4%. And it is just basically, are you doing the things that I ask you to do? So this includes anything not an official assignment, as far as like a writing assignment. We do some things where you're going to do a little story mapping to figure out the assignment, or you might have a pre-test, the diagnostic, all of those kind of things. You get credit for doing, and if you don't do it, you don't get credit. So it's pretty much pass or fail in that category. So that's citizenship. And then this is where the actual grades come from. And this is for each of those 6 standards, you're going to get a grade for each assignment. So for the art-inspired one, you're going to get a grade. Let's see, you get a proficient for that. Creature creation, you didn't do so well, so you only got an approaching. The personal narrative was, that one was excellent. That one really stood out. Ball Phantasmagorical was okay. The comic one you didn't do, so I have no evidence for that one. But the final story, you cleaned it up really well and you got an excellent. So this would be your grade for the ideas standard. Now the way it is set up so that it gives you it takes the highest grade of them. So let me show you how that looks here. So within the ideas category, you'll see that the overall grade is a 4, excelling, because the highest grade in there was a 4. Actually, a couple of them got a 4. So rather than taking an average of all your scores, Because what I really want to know is, you know how to do this. You've shown me at least on one assignment that you can do, you can use good ideas. So we're going to take your highest score on that. And the same thing is going to happen for each of those 6 categories. I'm just going to give you an example so you can see here. Oh, you forgot to do some of these. That's not good. So here for organization, the highest score was a 3. So you get a 3 for organization. So you get the score here is where your actual grade comes from. So this first category that I have is where you're going to get your grade for the assignment. So remember, that is that average of all of the scores that you got. So again, let's say you got a 3 and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3. Then your average is a 2.5. So that's what you're going to see here. You're going to see a 2.5 for the art assignment. Okay. This does not directly affect your grade, but this is really just there so that you can kind of see, well, how did I do on that assignment? Oh, I only got a 2.5. I got to try a little harder. And then you can go in and see which standard you need to work harder on to get a better grade next time. So that is the only purpose of this category. So you can see like what you got on the paper, but really what counts is the standards for each category. The other thing, just to let you know, is what will happen when you turn in your first assignment is you've done this one, but you haven't done these. So in order for the system to take your highest grade, I have to put in no evidence for the others, which is what then people get kind of worried, because they look and go, oh my goodness, why do I have zeros on all of these stories? I haven't even done them yet. They're not even assigned yet. It's just so that the computer can pick the highest score, because then I'll show you how this looks. So under ideas, you've only got 1 score, but you'll notice your subtotal, your final score for ideas, is a 3. Because that was your highest score, even though all of these others show up as 0. And then later, you do this assignment and you do a 4. You've still got all these other zeros, but now under ideas, you have a 4, because that is your highest now. You have a 3, a 4, and a bunch of zeros. The highest score is the 4, which is what you get for that one. So I wanted to explain that before that happened and people started going, why am I getting all these zeros? It is just so that the grade system can pick the highest one. Okay. Hopefully that explains the grading system to you. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Again, my email is aklco@mglva.org, and my phone number, you can call or text me at 231-655-5975, and I'd be glad to go over it more. Hopefully this helps, though. Have a great day.